Okay, the next item on the agenda is to review and discuss the Realtors Workshop. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just wanted to give you just a quick briefing here on this next item. We are certainly preparing for this Friday and for the Realtors Workshop. We know that one of the key hallmarks in our community has been our connection and relation with our neighborhoods. Key to that certainly is one of the first people that helps with the introduction of a new resident to our neighborhoods, and that occurs oftentimes to the profession of the real estate community. Early on when we started talking about how we would continue to outreach, market, make aware of our unique opportunities in this community, we identified the realtors as an important party to that. And before me as manager or anyone on this council was here, I think those before us identified the benefit of really having this important relationship with realtors. Don, just take a minute here and certainly tell us about this upcoming workshop. Notice here, this is one of our events on Friday the 5th, then followed the next day on Saturday the 6th with a very active day with Trash Bash and all kind of community volunteerism. So as we move into April, like I said, we won't be highlighting all these things tonight, but just let you know very, very important activities occurring this month, but particularly this Friday workshop, a very effective morning time we're going to have the realtors. Don?
Great. Thank you, Dan. Mr. Mayor and City Council, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight and share a little bit about our Realtors Workshop, which I think you'll find is very unique in North Texas. It's one of the only events of its type, and something that I think other cities in the region are really looking to Richardson as a leader in this regard and communicating with this very important group. Thought I'd start off by just providing a little bit of background for you. Our first Realtors Workshop was in this room in 2008. We had about 90 or so realtors that attended that morning, and the primary reason for the workshop and the way it developed was because just about 8 months before this event was held, we implemented, City Council approved, and we implemented our Home Improvement Incentive Program. And there were all kinds of interest being expressed by not only realtors, but mortgage companies and businesses, appraisers. Everybody really associated with the real estate profession was very interested in our program, and we thought, well, what a neat way to get a key group of community leaders together and be able to share this unique program. As you recall, there's a lot of good commentary and editorials in the Dallas Morning News, just generated a great buzz. So this was really our first outreach to that group, but for that very specific reason. We had such a great response that first year that the very next year we actually had to move to the Grand Hall, and that was the year we incorporated the Exhibitors Row. And that was kind of really initially just a couple of key departments that we thought realtors would have some kind of an interest in from the city, that just set up a couple of tables around. And of course, I'll talk about this in just a little bit, but we know what that's kind of grown to now with over 20 different organizations taking part each year. 2010 was our first year that we partnered with Metro Texas Association of Realtors on the event. And this past year, I'm proud to say we was our largest participation ever, both, as I mentioned, on the exhibitors front with 20 different groups, including many city departments coming together, but also taking that initial group of about 90 realtors and growing it to over 225. It's always a little bit hard to tell. It's a very fluid group. A lot of them will come and go and then come back in, so it's always hard to know for sure. But we do know from Metro Texas registration and confirmation that we had about 228. We think that we probably had a few more than that, actually. And then one of the things I think that's been very effective, if you look at and I know many of you have attended all or the past few years. If you look at the events, they're always structured a little bit different, and that's always based on the feedback that we do. At the conclusion of every event, we do a survey, and we ask realtors for feedback. 2 years ago, they wanted shorter programs, so we had 5 different topics that we presented over the course of about 2 hours with 5 different presenters. This year, they were very specific, and I'll talk about the agenda and what they really desired to see. When you look at the goals of the workshop, I think it's important to kind of think back to not only this event, but really the neighborhood vitality and integrity strategy that the council back in 2003 and every council since has really kind of formulated. I think the underlying theme here is that we've got 60 plus little communities working in Richardson. When you look at every neighborhood, everyone is different. Everyone has its own set of challenges, and everyone has its own set of assets and opportunities. And I think what we try to do here is we try to recognize that whether you're talking about a current Richardson resident, a North Texas resident, or potentially a regional newcomer, every time they make a decision about where they're going to live, it's very calculated, it's very considerate, and it's very conscious about what kind of amenities the city has, the reputation for their services, all these things that we try to empower realtors with via this workshop to talk about very knowledgeably about Richardson. And realtors, when you think about it as particularly for newcomers to North Texas, they're really on the front lines of being able to communicate for us and being able to help sell Richardson and all that it has to offer. So during that very important decision-making process, they're key. So we every year we try to provide them an up and close look, kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what the city and its partners have done the past year and what the future will hold. We provide very specific resources from our partners and from city departments about economic development, about educational opportunities, about our social services, about the cultural arts. I mean, there's really not a facet of the city that's not represented in one way or another here. And again, that's all to really help realtors distinguish and differentiate Richardson from all of our neighbors. Because I really think when you're empowered with the information that we provide through this workshop, it's very easy to do that. And I think that's some of that key feedback that we get each year from the realtors. We hope that at the end of the day, when they fill out their survey, there's a couple of key things that they tell us. We hope, one, and I'm not just saying this, but they really, really enjoy visiting with you. I mean, some of the most positive feedback that we have is, where else do you get an opportunity? What other city is providing an opportunity for really one group of business professionals like this to come and be able to visit with the entire city council and our entire city management team, practically every department head, the police chief, the fire chief, as well as every other key community player, and talking about organizations in our city. So that's one of the neatest things that they every year kind of reiterate to us, is keep that part of the process. They also enjoy networking with each other, meeting folks from different branches or different companies, having the opportunity to visit with real estate professionals that may not be doing exactly what they're doing. So the networking is always a fun time. If you get there at around 8 o'clock, you can just see that's a very dynamic hour, very busy hour. That lot of fun taking place for those folks during that time period. We obviously hope they develop a much better understanding of our city operations. You know, why do we do things the way we do them? Why, when it seems so obvious to them that it's an easy answer, we're not doing that? I mean, it's a very good time for them to come to the realizations of running a city government like we do, and some of the challenges associated with that, some of the things that aren't as easy to do as they would imagine. Getting some very unique insights. I think we were thinking about what some of the things we would want them to take away this year. I can't tell you, and I'm sure you have as well, I'm already getting questions from realtors about what potential impact the State Farm development and announcement is going to have. They're getting contacts from folks before we do when it comes to, where do I live in Richardson? How do I make this transition? So the information that we can share about projects like that help them. Because a lot of times they're working with folks ahead of our key announcements and getting that information out there for a variety of reasons. And then finally, just as I mentioned, with 60-plus neighborhoods, you really have to know what each neighborhood has to offer. You really have to understand the uniqueness of each neighborhood to make sure that they can fit together their clients with the best opportunities for them to be happy in Richardson. So this is what we hope they take away. Just kind of a couple of examples of our previous topics before I tell you what we're going to do in 2013. You'll see we always have kind of a state of the city, which is always very popular. We've had representatives from UT Dallas in the past, Richardson Independent School District, and of course our Chamber of Commerce a couple years back came to talk to us. Then we do very specific programs. As I mentioned, the first was the Home Improvement Incentive Program. If you'll recall, when we were just prior to the vote for our 2010 bond program, Dan provided a presentation and to help educate and raise awareness about what that program included. Our communication strategy, when Greg Sowell came on the following year, we took an opportunity to share with realtors how they could plug in and get up-to-date information. And then what I think is one of the neatest that we've done is the West Spring Valley Corridor Reinvestment Strategy. You can kind of see here, not only did we have a presentation that really explained how that strategy was developed and what we were doing to implement it. But this is something that we developed for the Realtors Workshop that we take around all throughout the community now. It's got information and some of the artwork and some of the concepts that were associated with that. It's got the fly-through video, and it's got some very specific other specific information if they want to delve a little deeper into the strategy. So it's been a very effective tool to help us promote that corridor reinvestment strategy. Our 2013 agenda will include a State of the City from Dan, as well as, and we're very excited about this, kind of a state of the UT Dallas from Dr. David Daniel will be on hand. And both of these were very specific that Metro Tex and their realtors came and asked for us. When we met during our planning meeting this year, this was the easiest topic on that agenda that day because they wanted to hear from Dan as our new city manager, and there was so much going on at UT Dallas that they said if we can get somebody in particular, Dr. Daniel, to come explain what that means to our community, they were just be pleased. So we're real excited we were able to do that. Again, we'll kick off from 8 to 9 for breakfast. We'll do some introductions from 9 to 9:15, and then we'll have the 2 programs, and then close up with our closing remarks and our door prizes, which is always a fun part. That exhibitor's row, I told you, you can see every department practically in the city is represented there. You can kind of see our communications table. It's really a neat event. When you think of the Grand Hall and you think of literally walking through that first door and solid all the way down and then all the way up the perpendicular wall to the far side, it is table after table after table with city department and community organizations. It's a great outreach effort. And I'll tell you, our community partners really thank us for this. And I know Mr. Solomon has volunteered in a variety of those. And it's a great opportunity for the organizations not only to answer questions, but actually to promote themselves and to grow as organizations and be able to do more in the community. So you can see a couple of our partners that we have here, our friends there at the YMCA pictured. So we always try to make this a more valuable event for the realtors. And this year we've got 2 new features to the morning. We're going to have interactive presentations, and essentially the way this will work is throughout the morning for both presentations, our participants will be able to either text or email in questions. So as Dan's going through his presentation, if there's a variety of folks that have a similar question, I, along with a moderator, we'll be able to kind of summarize those questions, and then we'll have very specific points throughout the presentation where we'll take a pause and ask Dan and ask Dr. Daniel a question. Something very interactive. The Realtor Group feels really strongly about being able to kind of be a part of the event, so this is something that helps with that. And then finally, and again, I think a real neat idea here, there are a lot of key businesses that are expanding in our community right now, and we thought this is such an effective educational event for realtors. If they had some key clients that they wanted to bring that were kind of on the cusp, do I move to Plano, do I move to Richardson, do I move somewhere else in North Texas, we offered them to invite those folks to come with them to hear everything that's going on in Richardson and hear about why they should move here instead of some of our neighbors. So we feel like that's going to be an interesting dynamic for the first time to have, and these are key clients. We're not inviting everybody who's looking for a house for the breakfast, but it'll be something that our branch managers, our key branch managers at our different different real estate business offices here in Richardson will be able to decide on. So I think an exciting twist to what we've done in the past. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Just again, a reminder that this is this Friday. 8 to 9 for breakfast and 9 to 11 for the programs and the other elements. So, with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Dunn?
Yeah, Don, thank you. It looks like it'll be a full morning of activities and stuff like that. And I don't want to bring up a topic that is not on the agenda, but I think it plays definitely into here, is the rental registration. And I know the realtors are somewhat opposed to it, but they also mentioned some other activities or other programs out of some other cities, like COs before, renter tenant perspective. So can you, while you're there, and I assume that you're going to be there with them part of the day, kind of take a poll on it and see where some of the outlining cities are on with COs and other activities for rental registration?
Well, certainly, I think we are expecting that could be a topic, and we'll see if it shows up. I think one of the things will be to see any sentiment that comes from the realtors individually. I think so much of that stuff is more handled by those cities themselves. So I think we're going to be looking, if it's important, to kind of continue to look at that feedback two ways. One is from cities, and one is also from any realtor sentiment. I think it'll be our chance to also clarify a few points. I think there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. There's a high expectation belief that right now that we have an annual program. It's not an annual program. It's only at change of tenant. We make every arrangement to have that provision of that inspection occur before occupancy. The situations that are now in front of us and have had some discussion with us are the exception to that. They weren't registered with our program. Therefore, we have an incumbent occupant that we're having to sort out and deal with. But any other time, Don and his staff and team have made it abundantly clear that, and in the program we document that we are happy to make that inspection before at the change of tenant, and certainly not be intrusive after that. So there's several things that we'll clarify if that's a point of discussion. It's really not on the agenda itself. I think there's so many other messages that are out there. We're not ignoring that particular point of view, but that particular point of view is one of several in this community. The neighborhoods and the people that have gave policy direction to this community about that program are not going to be there this Friday, and I think are important parties to it as well. So my message will be that certainly the council gave that full consideration. But like I said, I think it's not to digress into that subject heavily, but we're attentive to that matter and know those folks have some very important points of view. And the ones we'll want to listen to. I want to acknowledge that, but certainly acknowledge it's not the only point of view.
Mr. Mitchell.
Just to add to what Scott has said, is in staying on our own agenda right now, is that I think, Dan, I think you explained this well, is that I think it would be very helpful to be able to dispel any misconceptions there are, if there are any, about our rental registration program. And I can't think of a better time to be able to do that when you have this number of realtors that are there. And so I think that might be a good opportunity to look at that. There seems to be my sense is that there's a lot of different cities looking at a lot of different things. But I think that if we can boil it down to 3 or 4 bullet points on exactly what we do, because it seems to me that the feedback that I have gotten from some realtors differs than what I get from other realtors. But at the end of the day, I think it would be good that we do clarify in a very succinct way what we actually do.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much, Don.
Thank you.